Jarren Benton is a rapper from Decatur, Georgia, who signed to the label Funk Volume in 2012. He would then go on to release 3 projects with Funk Volume, those being Freebasing with Kevin Bacon, My Grandma's Basement, and the Slow Motion EP Volume 1. However, in 2016, the Funk Volume label came to an end, and Jarren Benton went on to start his own independent label, Benton Enterprises, under which he has released his most recent project, Slow Motion Volume 2. He has a pretty impressive discography so far, but what do I think of it? Well, my name is CDTVProductions, and today we are going to be ranking Jarren Benton's discography from the worst to the best.
Came up from the gutter, now we own, bitch. Moved out my mama house and got my own shit. Fuck these nigga, hey, now I'm on my own dick.
For his worst album at our 5th spot, I've put Huffing Glue with Hasselhoff, which was released in 2011.
I kill a beat and paralyze a chorus. Fuck up your city like they let loose a Tyrannosaurus.
Now this is what I'm going to be ranking Jarren Benton's discography from, starting from Huffing Glue with Hasselhoff. It was not his first mixtape, I believe this was his second, but it's where we'll start from, as I haven't listened to his first one. It's also worth noting here that all these albums pretty much are at least a 7.5 out of 10 or above for me. It's just a case of which ones I like slightly better. With that being said, let's talk about this one. So as I said, this was Jarren Benton's second mixtape, and it's not even bad. You can still see that Jarren had his crazy persona on this tape, but he had still yet to fully develop his style. You can also tell the tape is a little bit older due to relatively dated production. However, Benton and SMKA always work so well together that it almost doesn't matter. The album starts off explosively with the energetic and inspiring track, I Will Not Lose. I kinda wish this track was a little bit longer, but at the same time, it might have lost the impact it had if it was longer. We also have some fairly funny skits on the album, which is something Jarren is very good at, with no DJ and most interesting. I think my favourite track on the album probably by far is I'm a Murder. It's got a brilliant beat and hook, and Jarren's verses are also great. And this is Jarren, so I don't even really need to say this, but if you don't already know, his flow is generally on point. I also really like the more hyped up song, Fuck That Shit They Drinkin'. It's a really energetic song, and it's got that kind of classic 2011 party song vibe to it. It's a pretty good mixtape overall, but it could have been a lot better. But it is understandable, as Jarren had not fully developed as a rapper at this point. On the next spot at number 4, we have Freebasing with Kevin Bacon, which was released in 2012.
Tress, Lego, y'all sucker ass niggas soft like jello. Pull up in a Trans Am nose on a whole gram of the white girl, nigga J.O. Kick a nigga dope with a K-I-L-O. Blunt full of kush, make a nigga feel mellow.
Now here we have Jarren's first mixtape released under a label, which is Funk Volume. It was a fairly big step up from Huffing Glue, but still suffered a lot of the same problems, namely the slightly cheap sounding production on certain tracks, such as on Lean, which I still love despite that, and the track Problem. However, you can also see massive improvements in just a year from Jarren on this tape. Tracks like Fuck You Too are perfect to introduce him to a more mainstream audience, which also surprisingly featured 2 Chainz, which is pretty damn good for an independent artist to get on their track. While he also manages to maintain a speedy flow on that song, and he also showcases his rapping skills on tracks like Billion Bucks. He also brings out his unique comedic style so much more on his raps here, and this album also features No Homo Phone Call, which is one of the funniest skits I have ever heard in my life. I don't often laugh out loud at skits, but this one legit made me burst out laughing more than once. It's absolute gold. Jarren also chooses pretty sick features across this whole mixtape, varying from Ritz to 2 Chainz to Dizzy Wright. It also has pretty dope cover art, which is something that he's quite good at as well. Additionally, I realised how much I love Jarren's emotional side on the tracks Lord Knows and Nothing Remains, a side that he would show much more later on. Obviously, the only reason this is lower is because there's quite a few tracks I don't really like for a number of various reasons. Those tracks would be Turbo Ozone, Problem, and I didn't really like the beat on Freebasing, but it's still a fairly good track. So there's a decent amount of tracks I don't really like on here, but it's still a tape I would rate highly, and I definitely still recommend you check it out. I'd recommend you check all of Jarren's albums out. He is such an underrated artist, it's ridiculous. He should have 10 times the recognition he does, and I honestly wish he was a lot more popular because he puts a lot of work into his music, and I think he deserves a lot more recognition. At number 3, we have Slow Motion Volume 2, which is his most recent project released in 2016.
Yeah, 2 years since my nigga died. 1 year since a nigga cried. My whole team switched sides. Never trust a bitch ride.
Now, I was in crazy anticipation for this album. After getting one of my friends over here into Jarren Benton, we both kind of fell in love with him. Like, I'd loved his music before, but I listened so much more after getting my friend into his music, because, you know, we're always together, so we always listen to it together. So we had this album so hyped up in our minds. And for me, for the most part, this album did not disappoint. One thing I liked about this is Jarren really went into his personal side a lot more in this album than he usually does, expanding much more on his emotion since previous albums, with about 6 of the 16 tracks here being purely emotional. I also thought it was cool how the sound of the project was pretty different to his previous ones, with Jarren taking a darker approach on this project. Even with the more kind of hype tracks like What a Difference and No Fucks Given, they have darker sounding beats, which is quite interesting. I think overall it's pretty damn good, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't wish to see more of the crazy, hilarious Jarren personality that we've all come to love so far. I feel like his crazy style only really showed on the intro, which is one of my favourite tracks, the track What the Fuck You Talking About, and Aluminium Bat, but the change in sound is still fairly welcome. This project also has a lot of different producers, and honestly I was kinda sad to only see a couple of Kato produced tracks on here, as him and Jarren have fantastic chemistry, but I guess it is pretty good that Jarren is working with a lot of different producers and making sure his sound doesn't stay too similar across projects. Also, I can definitely say that I want Jarren to work with the Coalition a lot more, as almost all his songs over their production on here sound sick. And at number 2, his second best album in my mind is My Grandma's Basement, released in 2013.
Yeah, they say you are what you eat. Home recalling the fucking rapist. I throw a rock up in the sky, you hit a freaking spaceship. I'm going ape shit. Hey bitch, how come?
Now this was so close to being number 1, but there was just one other project that outshines this one. I fucking love this project, and if you want to see the Slim Shady-esque side of Jarren, look no further than this LP. I know I've mentioned Kato a lot so far, but he deserves it. He produces 8 of the 17 tracks here, that's excluding the 2 skits, and pretty much every one he produces is dope. Highlights would be We On, parentheses My Own Day, which is such a great song and has a decent feature from Pounds in my opinion, and a great feature from Dizzy Wright. I also love Razor Blades and Steak Knives, which has fantastic rapping from Jarren. It's a really kind of comedic style song. He has a lot of kind of joke lines on there and it's pretty funny. And it also has a great hook from Hemi, who has worked with Jarren a few times. But it is not all just fun and games on this album. It takes a pretty sinister and emotional turn on the track Heart Attack, where he raps about a girl who fucked him over and him eventually stabbing her. It's one of the best tracks he's ever released, and he just effortlessly pours emotion into this track. This is backed up by the dark, lonely, somber sounding production by The Kraken. However, on a lighter note, this album does have a sequel to the skit on Freebasing with Kevin Bacon, this time called Even More No Homo. This one somehow made me piss myself laughing even more than the first one. It's too good of a concept for a skit and I absolutely love it. It's hard for me to choose tracks I don't like on here, but if I did, I'd go for I Deserve It, and PBR and Reefer sit squarely on average for me. But apart from that, it's a fantastic project, and I think this is the one that for sure represents Jarren's personality as a rapper the most. And at number 1 for what I consider to be the best album Jarren Benton has released to date, we have the Slow Motion EP Volume 1, released in 2015.
Ego, these hoes out here trying to get a ring like Smeagol. I am sicker than polio, niggas fake like Pinocchio. When I'm in that pussy, these hoes catching the Holy Ghost. I would not go for the okie doke.
And here we are at my favorite project released by Mr. Benton so far. The reason for it is pretty much simple. I love every track on here, with the only one falling slightly short for me being Hallelujah, which is worth it anyway for the addition of the Dizzy Wright verse. I feel like these songs are the best in terms of overall quality by far from Jarren. I don't want to have to mention him again because, you know, this is Jarren's discography ranked, but holy shit, you can see Kato's progression from any previous projects on here. Seriously, it is ridiculous how good his beats are on this project. I cannot hype it up enough. His beats are magnificent here. For example, the production for the opener, You Don't Know Me, sounds absolutely fantastic in every single aspect, and it just sounds so professional. There's also great production from other producers here like Justin Padron. Jarren hits the perfect balance of deeper tracks and bangers here. He has stuff like WHW, which stands for, I believe it, whatever, however, wherever, which is just great to bump at full volume in a car. Then he has tracks like the motivational desperate Aticophobia. And don't even get me started on the closing track Silence. Oh my god, this song genuinely brought a tear to my eye. why, and I never knew Jarren could reach this deep before. The first verse is the best part of the song, which is dedicated to his friend Jamal Slow Motion Pryor, who is actually the whole reason why this EP was called the Slow Motion EP. This was actually released as a dedication to him after his untimely death, hence the name of the Slow Motion projects. It's genuinely sad to hear how this affected Jarren and the family of Pryor. And Serena Dominguez also adds to the track with a hook that just makes me feel breathless and sad. This is hands down the greatest track Jarren Benton has released, and in my opinion this whole project is his best one so far. Well guys, that is going to be it for our discography ranked video today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave a like if you did and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for all the support recently, and on Tuesday I have a video coming out. My top 10 video this week is going to be one that I think all you guys are going to love, as it is going to be my top 10 fastest car verses of all time video. I finally got it ready for you guys, so you can expect that on Tuesday. I'm not sure if there's much else I want to say here. As always, there's a link to my Twitter in the description. I'd really encourage you to follow it. It's at CDTVProductions, simple. So please follow me on there. You guys can interact with me a lot more, and like I've said before, if I ever do a subscriber special Q&A, I'll probably ask you guys to ask me the questions through Twitter. So with that being said guys, thank you so much for watching. There's also a link to my Patreon in the description if you want to donate to me there. It would mean a lot. It'll help me to increase my content quality and potentially the quantity of videos. But that's all I want to say guys. Thank you for watching, and this is CDTV Productions signing out.